It's the last day of the 2024-25 regular season for the Chicago Bulls. They take on the Philadelphia 76ers. And while this season has been a wild season when you look at the start of the season till now, a lot of changes around the thought process around Bulls fans and even with the Bulls themselves. On today's episode, we're going to talk about what the Bulls should really take from the season and how they should use it in their decisions going forward. We're going to get into all that, plus the mailbag, right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Terry Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And yeah, man, so the Chicago Bulls, this season, the 2024-25 season has, in a lot of ways, been a roller coaster, right? Like, at the start of the season, of course, there's always some hope at the beginning of the season. The Bulls started out struggling, started off the season with, I think, a 32-win pace throughout the first month and a half of the season, if I'm not mistaken, and then playing much better here on the second half of the season. And regardless of how you look at this, right, the question that the front office needs to be asking, and many Bulls fans do have on their mind, is what comes after this? Right now, we have playing tournament to get through, and whether that means we're going to get into the playoffs or not before, we really can focus just on that. But the Bulls, in adding clarity to their team, right, as far as now having a young core, if you want to call it that, right, also having their own first-round picks. And I think that sometimes, especially with fans that kind of more so look at, oh, is the pick going to be this high, is it going to be that high, is it going to be in the lottery, kind of overlook how much flexibility it gives you when you have all of your first-round picks, right? It gives you tons of flexibility as far as what you do in drafts. If you want to move up and get your guy, if you want to move the pick instead of drafting, pair it with a contract to get a player in here. And the Bulls have done that, but they've also cleared up their cap sheet, right? Now, these are things that I've talked about kind of independently of each other. I don't know how often I've talked about it as a kind of just in their totality, right? Like, let's just look at where the Bulls sit right now, right? They have, regardless of how you look at it, you have a promising young player in Josh Giddey who is averaging almost a triple-double for you on the season, and especially since the All-Star break, almost a 20-point triple-double, regardless of how you view how much that's going to stick around or not. Like, you have that promising 22-year-old player. You have a 20-year-old promising rookie in Buzelis who has shown you so much and really grown as a young player over the course of the season, from a player that wasn't getting minutes at the start of the season to a player now that has been playing a key role for the Bulls, whether it's doing things offensively, whether it's doing things in transition, whether it's doing things defensively with his blocks and growing in that part. Like, Billy Donovan's continued to challenge him and added more and more onto him. He's going to be coming into next season with a ton more responsibility as well, right? You've done that. You have those three players now. If you want to look at, no matter the doubts around anybody, right? Those three players alone have offered you so much, right? The 25-year-old Coby White, who, was thrust into the number one scoring option, and basically since being thrust into that has been way more consistent. Still has had some issues in games and things like that, right? But these players now give you something that you can look at and say, all right, listen, we got something that we're cooking here. We still got it to get to the next level. We're still going to need a lot more, but we have that. And you've seen what these guys now have looked like with veterans on their team that fit them. Kevin Huerter and what he's brought and come to this team, and not necessarily saying that Kevin Huerter has made himself a player that you cannot possibly move on from Kevin Huerter, but at least does show you when you have a solid player who understands, who's smart, right, who gives effort on both sides of the ball and can stretch the floor a little bit, how that adds spacing to what Coby White and Josh Giddey are trying to do in breaking down the teeth of the defense, right? Even Nikola Vucevic on the second half of the season showed you what a solid big man could do. Now, imagine if he was also a defensive threat. It is what it is there, right? And then so you have these questions now, right? As far, these things that you're looking at and saying, all right, we start seeing what this could look like. I haven't really gotten to see Io a lot with this team. We'll see what that looks like a lot going forward, right? With next season with him, but he's somebody as well that can fit in, especially with the way that this team likes pushing the pace. Still got some questions in Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry, but they still got a couple more years. Well, one more season with Dalen, a couple more with Julian before you really got to worry about extending them or anything like that. So you're starting to see some things, right? You're starting to see the little bit of a makeup. Again, it's starting to kind of remind me of the baby Bulls, right? Like in that area. But the thing that's really important is having your own first-round picks and having the flexibility and the money. The Bulls are $59 million beneath the first tax apron this upcoming summer. And they can be as much as $69 million beneath the first tax apron in the summer of 2026, the summer where I think they should make their move, right? And that gives you flexibility. Even if Josh Giddey does sign for $30 million, let's just say for somehow, I don't think it's going to be this much, but let's say it's $35 million, right? That still leaves yourself $24 million with only one technical open roster spot that you would need to fill so you can use your full mid-level exception to go out there and get you a guy, right? Whether it's a 1 or 2 year deal, right? And that would still then put you still in a place where you're having close to $90 million left and more than that in the summer of 2026. And that still leaves you with that much, even if you re-sign Coby White for a huge amount, right? So the Bulls are in a place now where they can really evaluate, right? I think next season, the start of next season, the beginning of that, I really want to see and evaluate how much of what we saw in second half of the season, Giddey, second half of the season, Coby, how much of that do we see at the start of next season? And how much of that then, okay, is like, all right, bet, now we can feel safe in who these players are, right? And that's not to knock either player. That's just, you always kind of want to just make sure, right? How much does Miles Buzelis make a leap in year 2, right? You get to see and evaluate that next year, right? And then maybe you're adding another first-round pick. You're getting to see more from Io, who hopefully can stay healthy at that point, right? You're looking at what Kevin Huerter and Zach Collins and these guys bring. Are they trade chips? Are they contract extensions, right? And then you're starting to look at, all right, bet, summer of 2026, if you have now another full season of data that, no, Josh Giddey is this guy. Coby is this guy. Modest took another big step. Now, let's go out and put an offer sheet out there for Jaren Jackson Jr. that's huge, just to see, hey, maybe the Memphis Grizzlies don't match it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, right? Maybe you have that type of thing. Maybe you make the trade, a sign and trade for a guy like that, right? And now you're off to the races with a team that's competing in the Eastern Conference theoretically. So that's what the Bulls have the option of doing, and that's where the flexibilities come at. And that's why when I say things like Arturas and Eversley, the onus is really now on them on how they do that evaluation, then how do you continue to get over the top. The Bulls have cap space. Basically from the summer of 2026 all the way until, of course, depending on how big those contracts are, but you look at even in the summer of 2027, they're slated to have $211 million in cap space as it stands right now. Now, over that, you're looking at extensions for Giddey, Coby, Io, maybe Julian Phillips at that point in time, right? So you're looking at contract extensions for those guys. So, of course, that's going to be cut into. But if you're talking about $211 million, even if all 4 of those guys split get $30 million each, which they won't, that's still what? That's $120 million. You're still looking at tons of cap flexibility. So the Bulls are heading into a place to where if this young talent continues to develop, if these young guys continue to show you who they are, you're not going to have the restrictions that you had in prior years. So many people make the comparison when they talk about Josh Giddey's contract to potentially Zach LaVine's, and the team is in wildly different spots at that point in time. They have the ability, they have tons of latitude and flexibility. They have their own first-round picks. They have tons of cap space over the next 4 or 5 years, and that could even be pushed down depending on how they set up those contracts, right? So it's in a place right now where, hey, the Bulls have some money, they have the draft picks, and they've given themselves a future. That's what this season has really done. You've given yourself a future with young, talented players. You've given yourself a future with holding your own first-round picks. You've given yourself a future with having tons of cap flexibility going forward into the future. Like, this Bulls team is in a place where, again, if Josh Giddey and Coby started off the season the way that they've been playing on the second half of the season, a lot of people wouldn't even have questions, but they are basically in a place that teams that are still building all want to be in. You don't have to worry about your first-round picks. You don't have to worry about the money. You don't have to worry about having at least some young talent that's promising and developing and showing you that, hey, at least at some level, right, they're able to compete in this league. Yeah, you need them to take a step further because ideally you want to go a step. You fought for a playing spot this year. Next year, you want to be flirting with having the ability to maybe make that 6th seed to avoid the play-in. Even if you finish 7th, cool, right? But you want to be aiming for that 6-7 spot next year and hoping that you can get to that place with what you've shown this year and the development that could come from certain players, right? So the Bulls have a future. And that's what this season has really done for the Chicago Bulls. It's given them a future. The Bulls coming into the season, I said it, many people said it, there was so much doubt and gloominess over the future. And keep in mind, I can still say that the Bulls have a future, even with Patrick Williams. Notice what I said, even with the bad contract of Patrick Williams and how bad it looks right now. Maybe he can step up and show that it's not bad, but with how bad it looks right now, they still got a future, right? And I wouldn't have said that coming into this. You kind of needed Patrick Williams to step up. There's still big question marks in Dalen and Julian, right? But again, with their contracts coming up soon, next year's the last year of Dalen's contract. You got 2 more after this season with Julian Phillips, unless you pick up his 5th-year option. Hey, listen, so the Bulls have basically flexibility in every place that they're in right now. How they use that flexibility is going to be important because you can still fuck up flexibility, and you want to hope that this team is not doing that, but that's where this team sits right now. And we'll see where it goes going forward. But all right, let's move on from that, y'all. Let's get into the mailbag for today. No, I'm not previewing today's game against the Philadelphia 70. Listen, I know I usually do see a team preview before every game, but like it's the 76ers. Most of the players that are playing there for them today weren't even on the roster the beginning of this. It doesn't matter, right? Like, yeah, of course I want the Bulls to win, but we got bigger things that we're worried about. But let's get into these voicemails, man. Let's get into this first one. This one's from Jay.
Hey, what's good, Hayes? Jay Maurice. This is my 3rd time calling. You know, normally when I call in, it's with a relatively controversial thought, and today is no different. So I wanted to call in around the topic and get your thoughts on the topic of maybe we should consider trading our pick this year in the draft. Now, I know this is going to be controversial because this draft class is stocked full of talent. Undoubtedly, there are players that we're going to be able to get at the spot where we're drafting that we could certainly use. But also that means this pick is more valuable. So one thing that I'll point out is last year, Minnesota traded for the number 8 pick, and they gave up one unprotected first and one protected first swap, and that was in a weak draft. This is a strong draft class. Maybe we could get an unprotected first and maybe even a protected first. And why do we do this? I think to myself, who are we likely to draft between this draft class and next draft class? This draft class, we're probably going to have the pick somewhere between the 12 to 15 spot. Next year, it's probably going to be around that same area. And so are we better off long-term adding a potential starter, role player level guy in that area 2 different times for positions that we need? Or would we actually be better off picking one guy between these 2 draft classes that's kind of like a top 5 talent? So I think to myself, all right, we're in a stronger draft class. Maybe we can get as much as one unprotected first and one protected first. And then next year, when we have a pick at number 14 or 15, we're able to pair that with the unprotected first and protected first that we got in this draft class, plus the 2026 at that point Portland pick that we'll have, plus maybe even a protected first, another protected first from us, and all of a sudden now we have 5 picks that we're packaging together to go for a guy like AJ DeBonsta or another one of the top 2, top 3 picks next year. That could be a better pairing with Josh Giddey and Coby White. So when I think about the long-term future, it seems like it's I can't say that I'm necessarily committed to the idea, but I certainly think strategically we should be considering it and thinking it through. But I want your thoughts here. I know it's maybe a bit controversial. Obviously, there is certainly talent still where we would be. So let me know your thoughts. Peace.
Okay, so you lay a lot of hypotheticals, right? And hoping that teams had value. The thing that I do think that we're going to see a lot of in this draft is that if a team's player is not on the board, you're going to see a lot of teams, especially kind of teams that are more in the playoffs or the back end of the playoffs in this year, that they're going to move on from those draft picks and potentially move them to look to get kind of a more sure thing. So I think you're going to see a lot of picks towards the end of the first round being moved as teams kind of maneuver and things like that. But it's a lot of theoreticals. If the Bulls do decide to trade the pick this year, I'm not going to be all up in arms and say it's an impossibility that you shouldn't do that, but it really depends on who's going to fall. As it stands right now, and this could change with the draft combine, but it's a pretty good bet that either Asa New or Khaman Maluach is going to drop right to where the Bulls are. Keep in mind, I expect the Bulls, like you said, I think the lowest is 16th is where I probably think the Bulls can go. Again, that's if they make the playoffs. So, yeah, you're looking at right outside the lottery. I think the Bulls can really get some really good talent still there, and I don't think necessarily you're looking to move it in. Keep in mind, too, in the NBA draft, it's not like the NFL. It's not a lot of packaging picks to move up. Now, it does happen. I'm not saying that it never does happen, but it's not like as common in like an NFL draft. So, and again, your thought isn't that, like, it's not that crazy. It's not really controversial. I just think that it depends on the situation, and we'll see where we end the season. It depends on who's on the draft board, and it depends on what, again, teams are offering, because you do still have another deep draft in 2026. So we'll see. Again, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. I won't say that it's likely either. I just don't think it's very common, but that just because it's not common doesn't mean that it may not be the right move situationally. We just got to wait till we get to that situation. All right, let's get to the next one, man. This one's from Jeremy.
Hey, what's up, Hayes? This is your boy down in down in Oklahoma. Hey, it's Jeremy again. Just wanted to say, great show. You know, I'm like you. I had to give props up to Billy. You know, I talk about Bubblegum Billy all year, but ever since we made the moves and the Zach trade, you know, Billy and them have been doing an excellent job. So great to see that. You know, props to Billy. You know, just appreciate what you do, your show. Love seeing the young guys grow, hearing your feedback, you know, different perspectives. It's definitely great to hear a different opinion. And, we all enjoy it, man. So, Steve Red, and love the live shows too. Things happen for sure. Wow. But I think we'll all live, brother. You know, I could see the anger in your face as that was happening. So go easy on the guys, and Steve Red, and on to the play-in.
Billy has been making some really good coaching decisions. And like I said, I got to be honest in that, and I got to be real. My thing is always realness and not narrative, right? Facts over narrative. And the fact is that Billy has done a pretty damn good coaching job here since having the roster. We've always said that Billy, when he has a point guard playing at a high level and running his system, his offense has always looked good. He turned the defense over to Wes Unseld Jr. So those things have looked really good for the Bulls. I'm really excited to see now, like, what other things do you add into the game plan? Modest really has no plays in the game plan for him, for him ball handle and things like that. Like, how do you add that wrinkle in and that ability, right? Using the point forward ability of Modest Buzelis, maybe when Kobe or Giddey sits to kind of, you know, draw those things out. But then again, what if we have Trey Jones and Lonzo back next year, right? Like, are they going to take some of those secondary ball handling over Modest Buzelis getting a chance to grow that part of his game? That's some questions there. But, you know, Billy's done a really good job. And I hope that it continues in the play-in, whether win or lose, right? And I want to go ahead and say some people, like my boy Winton, even if the Bulls do lose in the play-in, let's say that they don't make it out that first play-in game against the Heat, that doesn't necessarily mean that Billy's coaching all is not, that it wasn't real. It may mean that he just gets out-coached by a better coach. I don't think anybody's going to make the conversation that Eric Spoelstra isn't a better coach than Billy Donovan, right? So we'll see how things shake out. But hats off to Billy for how he's coached on the back half of the season. Keep it up. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one's from Vikram.
What up, Dave? It's Vikram. Yeah, so I just had like a couple thoughts after I saw this one comment. I think it was on today's podcast. That was like something about how we don't have the guy on our team, and I just want to know like your thoughts, because my thoughts on like having the guy is I don't think Coby White will ever be the guy, like the number one. Right now he is, because we don't have the guy, but Coby White probably not going to be the guy. He can be like the second option at his peak, maybe. Josh Giddey, I don't know, maybe could get to that like 23, 24, like 10, 9, like maybe, but probably unlikely. I don't think he'll ever reach that like Steve Nash level player, but like maybe, who knows. Modest, I don't know. I don't know how good he can be, because the typical avenue that you see like at the best players in the league, you see them having pretty decent rookie year at the worst. Like probably what Modest is doing right now. But in a lot of cases they're like one of the best rookies in their class, like top 2 rookie in their class or something. And they just blossomed their third year. I don't know if Matas has shown enough this year to be like the guy, and I just want to know like how are we gonna get there? You think? I like to project like this because I do want something to really look forward to in like a couple years. And we had Jimmy Butler, Derrick Rose. Like I had something that's like, oh, I can live in the now. But with this team in like the last couple of years, I've been like, how can we make the move to get into that echelon with like the Celtics, the Cavaliers? Like, what is that? What do you think that avenue is? Is it like signing like a Jaren Jackson Jr. in the 2026 offseason, or is it like trading for Sabonis like you talked about? Yeah, just let me know, because I really do think that it's imperative that we do something sooner rather than later, because we don't want to be the team in like 2 years that's again stuck as like 3 pretty good players surrounded by decent rotational players, but doesn't have the guy that takes us to like a top 4 seed in the East.
Somebody turning into the guy. I mean, yeah, you need somebody to be the guy on the team. If you want to be a championship caliber team, you have to have the guy, right? That doesn't mean that you can't have a 1A, 1B. It doesn't mean they're not supported by damn good players, but you do need the guy, right? And so eventually the Bulls have to hope that somebody's going to turn into that, or that they can acquire one, right? And we'll see how that happens for the Bulls. How good can Buzelis be? I'm not one to put a cap on a player after 1 year, and the 1 year that they didn't even start the majority of that year. So Modest has a lot of room for growth. He has a lot of his ceiling's extremely high. He has a lot of potential there to hit that room for growth, and we'll see what is going to happen. But you say you want something to look forward to in 2 years. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You have a 22-year-old player averaging near a triple-double. You have a 20-year-old promising rookie, a 25-year-old Coby White that's now the number 1 scoring option. Has been pretty damn good since he's become that number 1 scoring option. You got something to look forward to now. Don't be so busy looking towards a future and what you want to see come that you overlook the appreciation now. This is the thing to look forward to. You mentioned the Kirk Heinrich, the Luol Deng, the Ben Gordon Bulls. Yeah, they needed a Derrick Rose to make them a true championship contender, but let's not act like they didn't have 4 or 5 straight years of making the playoffs, right? That and being a damn good tough out in that time as well, right? And as far as you don't want to be that team that 2 years from now is looking at, you have nothing to look forward to. You also don't want to be that team that makes their move too soon, and then in 2 years you don't have mobility, right? You don't have the flexibility to come off that. So, we got to see what this team is going to do. And like I said, it comes with time and patience. But let's hope that we're going to get there. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one's from Josh.
What's good, Hayes? It's Josh. Left a message before I didn't leave my name. He told me to. It's pretty funny. Anyways, I got a question for you. I know one of the draft prospects you're into is Asa Newell. I think he's great. What do you think about Khaman Maluach? I feel like a big old lob threat next to Giddey would be great with his playmaking. My second question is, do you think it's a possibility, if we're going to draft a center, do you think it makes sense that we could package together maybe Jalen Smith or Zach Collins, maybe even throw in Kevin Huerter to go up in the draft? Do you think that could happen? Is that something the Bulls would be looking to do? Anyways, appreciate your work, man. Love your stuff. Thank you.
I love Khaman Maluach, right? But he does have a low floor. Really high ceiling, but he has a really low floor. I do think that there is potential for Khaman to just never really turn into that promising big man that he looks like he's going to be. Now, I'm not saying that he won't turn into that, but the one thing I'm not going to do is allow draft hype and the hype around a young player to make it seem like, hey, there's not a chance that he can't turn into a bust. There is an absolute chance of that. I want to be clear there. There's an absolute chance of that. But again, I look at him being a player that's only played basketball for 5 years at this point. The flashes that he's shown, if you get him with a really good trainer, he has the ability to shoot some as well. Like there's tons of potential in Khaman, but there's also there's a chance that he may not turn into something. So we got to see. Overall, I'll say this: I like Khaman. If he falls, for example, if he's there for the Bulls at 16, and a guy like Asa Newell's already off the board, Derek Queen's already off the board, and Khaman's your consolation prize, it's a pretty damn good consolation prize. Doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily turn into a hit. It's a pretty damn good player to draft and see what they can turn into as well. Let's get into the last one, man. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Hayes? Look, I know you don't care about this draft shit right now because the season going on, and hey, that's cool. But I'm gonna need you to look up this guy. He plays for Creighton. His name is Ryan Kilburn or Kilburn. He's a center. He plays for Creighton. His name is Ryan Kilburn. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, but I believe he could fit with us. I mean, he is a consistent shooter from deep. He does block shots. He seems like he has a high basketball IQ, and judging by if we make the playoffs where we were picking, Rodney, he may not be a Khaman Maluach, but I mean, he could be close to it, you know. And he's a consistent shooter, I heard. I think that he could be a dark horse in this draft, especially if you're looking for centers. Now, look, I know I said that about Johnny Broom and all that, but I mean, I think you might want to check this guy out. You may not like him, but I mean, he does do a lot of what Billy Donovan's looking for. He may not be the size. I mean, because I know we love small centers, but I think he could be a rich man's John Collins in a way. Hey, you may not think so, but hey, I think he could help us. And plus, he looks like he already has a skill set where we don't have to do that much development. And that is a lot different from what we've been drafting for the last couple of years under the AK regime. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
First of all, Shay, his name is Ryan Kalkbrenner. It's like, what did you say his last name was now? But let's get into the player, right? 7'1", 207 pounds. He averaged 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 65% shooting this year. Also 25% from three. Not great percentage, but he does have an ability to shoot the three a little bit, right? Wide open threes on pick and pops, things like that you want him to take. The thing that I love about him, he averaged 2.4 blocks per game for his college career. That's really big. He's projected to go in the second round. So he's not a first-round option. The Bulls do have a second-round pick this year. And if he does fall and go into that second round, I'm not mad at him at all, right? As a second-round option, if he turns into nothing, he turns into nothing. But I'm not necessarily mad at all if the Bulls were to draft him in the second round. It just comes down to if they can develop him, what he can turn into, even if he ends up just being a bench big. That's pretty good value to get out the second round. So, hey, listen, I'm not mad at it. That's what I can say. I'm not mad at it. We'll see what the future holds, though. But, all right, that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.